At the beginning of the story, that night there was a man named Do Yun. He was a professional MMA wrestler who had just returned home after winning a world-level MMA tournament held in Mexico, where Do Yun became a champion at a young age, which made him the best and youngest fighter from Korea. Jung Do Yun's return was eagerly wanted by her mother and sister. Over the phone, the mother eagerly awaited her son's arrival by cooking a huge meal. But when he arrived home, Do Yun was confused because there was no welcome from his mother or younger sister. Being tired, Do Yun just ignored it. It was only after taking a drink from the refrigerator that he realized there were spread of blood on his hands. Suddenly, this made him panic and immediately look for his family. After a long time, Do Yun found his sister already lying dying. Investigated after Do Yun and his mother talking on the phone, at the same time, Do Yun's house was robbed by 3 people. Not only that, but the robbers also killed Do Yun's mother and sister. Knowing this, his feelings were raging. Anger and anxiety enveloped her. How could it not be? The night was supposed to be a happy night, not a night of sorrow. Therefore, Do Yun killed all the robbers. Then in a high school, students are seen watching the news about Do Yun's murder of 3 armed robbers. There, a student named Cho Woo-sol is also introduced. Woo-sol is an innocent man whose daily life is only studying and does not hang out much with his friends. Even so, Woo-sol is very kind, friendly, and polite to anyone. At the same time, it seems that their class has a new student. In front of the teacher, the man introduced himself as Ba Suk-chan. It is known Suk-chan is a boxer who has won a national level title at high school level. Hearing that, suddenly the students applauded. Besides being good at boxing, it seems that the students also think that Suk-chan is a very good person. It can be seen from the way he introduced himself very friendly. But not for Woo-sol. For some reason, he saw Suk-chan as a demon that scared him. Then after the teacher left, Suk-chan's real attitude began to revealed. He beat up the male students for no reason. More than that, Suk-chan did it only for his own pleasure and satisfaction. Arrogantly, Suk-chan declares that everyone here is just trash who must bow down to him. Not only that, it looks like Suk-chan also knows Woo-sol. It can be seen from his attitude always insulting Woo-sol, as if the two of them are familiar with each other. Seeing that, the woman in front of Woo-sol was angry. A new student shouldn't act like a tough guy, and then demean Woo-sol, who is just an innocent student. Instead of thinking, Suk-chan slapped the girl. Seeing that, Woo-sol held him back while begging Suk-chan to stop what he was doing. However, Suk-chan instead tortured Woo-sol continuous blindly to make Woo-sol helpless. It turns out that Woo-sol and Suk-chan were in the same school when they were in middle school, and for 3 years too, Woo-sol often got bullying and very cruel torture from Suk-chan for no reason. Worse, Woo-sol once drank his own urine on Suk-chan's orders. Therefore, after high school, Woo-sol became quiet because he did not want to deal with anyone. But the enemy's calmness had to disappear with Suk-chan's move this time, where Woo-sol known that he was just a sandbag. Back on topic, Woo-sol, who was lying down, saw a pencil. He picked it up and pointed it at Suk-chan. Knowing that, the arrogant Suk-chan actually challenged Woo-sol by pointing the pencil towards his own eyes. And because to his bravery, Woo-sol ended up stabbing Suk-chan in the eye. Because to his stupidity, Suk-chan finally got his own karma. After that, Woo-sol was brought to the courtroom. There he was charged with violence using a weapon. In fact, what he did was an act of self-defense. But still the prosecutors argued that Woo-sol's actions were not self-defense but dangerous violence to premeditated murder. Therefore, Woo-sol was sentenced to prison. Hearing that, Woo-sol was very disappointed, including his own mother, who cried hysterically knowing this injustice. Then, Woo-sol was taken to the bus. There, a man named An Hyun-min, a defendant in a theft case who wanted to sit with Do Yun, a boxer accused of murder, was introduced. Knowing this, Hyun-min was scared. Woo-sol then sat next to Do Yun without knowing who Do Yun really was. After arriving at the prison, Hyun-min became acquainted with Woo-sol. Simultaneously, they were put into the same cell. In the cell, there are 4 other men who are senior. Among them is Min Jong-ta, who has a fat body. There, Zhongta tells that this prison has 4 frontmen that must be avoided. Among the 4 frontmen are Han Xiangyang and Li Wanjun, who began to conspire, and also Zheng Sanghyop, who is the boss of Zhongta himself. However, Sanghyop was temporarily moved into exile, because he was framed by Xiangyang and Wanjun. While the strongest is Do Yun, an MMA wrestler. Kan Min informed that yesterday Wu Sol sat next to Do Yun. Knowing this, Wu Sol suddenly broke out and scared. After that, the next day, Zhongta took them to see a soccer football match between Xiangyang's gang and Wanjun. Then one of the players is injured. There, Xiangyang told Zhongta to join the game. Zhongta, who was scared, finally told Wu Sol and Han Min to replace him. Long story short, while playing, Wu Sol accidentally kicked Wanjun's genitals. After that, Wu Sol was then led by Wanjun's gang to get tortured. Halfway through, Do Yun is then seen. Wanjun, who panicked, told his men to behave normally. However, the frightened Wu Sol immediately ran to Do Yun for help. At first, Do Yun refused. However, Wu Sol kept begging, and finally Do Yun told Wanjun to leave the boy. But Wanjun, who didn't want to look weak in front of his men, challenged Do Yun duel. Hearing this, Do Yun ignored him, because he knew that their levels were very different. But Wanjun was still haughty and wanted to fight until insulting Do Yun. So, the unexpected happened. In the end, Wanjun lost badly with just 1 punch. Seeing this, Wu Sol was very impressed with Do Yun. Then after the incident, Wanjun held a grudge against Wu Sol. He always watching wherever Wu Sol go. Long story short, Wu Sol had a guest who claimed to be his friend. There Wu Sol was confused, because so far he had best friends, moreover only just friend. Sure enough, the person who met him was none other than Sikshan. Knowing this, Wu Sol was very scared. Even to hold a phone, he was very shaky. Not only that, Wu Sol also cannot look at Sikshan's face. While crying, Sikshan said, "Now I've stopped being a boxer and quit school. Because of you, I'm now blind in 1 eye." Hearing that, Wu Sol was very sorry. He kept begging to be forgiven. In fact, the incident was not Wu Sol's fault at all, but Sikshan himself, who pushed and challenged Wu Sol. Instead of repenting, Sikshan threatened Wu Sol by saying, "I'm waiting for you to be free, and while having fun in prison. Later I will kill you very cruelly." Hearing that, Wu Sol was very scared. In fact, he couldn't sleep well due to this serious threat from Sikshan. Long story short, from behind the window Wu Sol saw Do Yun was keeping fit by running. Wu Sol then met him to say thank for the incident with Wanjun. Do Yun explains that Wu Sol will be fine for now and then tells him to leave. Day after day passes. Now Wu Sol always comes to Do Yun's practice. Occasionally he brings Do Yun a drink as a gift of his gratitude, even though Do Yun has never once paid attention to him. On the other hand, Wanjun also had trouble catching Wu Sol, because Wu Sol was always with Do Yun. The next day, Wu Sol came early to get Do Yun's attention. However, Do Yun ignored him and continued his training. Knowing his efforts was no work, Wu Sol ran while following Do Yun from behind. While talking there, Wu Sol said, "I want to be strong like you, so that my life can become to normal. All this time, I kept avoiding trouble. I didn't want to be beaten, nor did I want to die. That's why I keep down and obedient to everyone. I was poor and weak. I've never held a grudge. I've received everything in my life, but I have a mother to support. That's why I don't want to live like this." Hearing that, Do Yun's heart was touched. Because his mother was gone, maybe Do Yun could help him, even if only for a while. Do Yun then asked Wu Sol to run 100 laps. Hearing that, he immediately did it. Long story short, Wu Sol had run as hard as he could. Do Yun then told him to stop. However, Wu Sol continued to run while imagining Sikshan, who was constantly rounding and bullying him. In the end, Wu Sol could make 100 laps, even though he had to faint and very exhausted. After that, Do Yun and the head warden were talking. There the head warden said, if Do Yun needed something, he just had to say it. Hearing this, Do Yun remembered Wu Sol's persistence. He asked Wu Sol to be in the same cell with him. Then Wu Sol was brought into Do Yun's cell. Having just arrived, Do-yun immediately told him to do push-ups. With his persistence, Woo-sol continued to obey Do-yun's instructions. Although it was hard for him, it did not break his spirit and then continued to rise to be better. He often did various exercises with portions beyond reason. All of that is just to make him become strong. On the other hand, Suk-chan, who looks depressed, makes trouble by inviting two random people to fight. This is none other than to vent his frustration over losing his boxing career and education. The action was seen by a mafia chief named Kim. Apparently, Kim saw good potential in Suk-chan. Therefore, Kim invited Suk-chan to cooperate as his subordinate. At first, Suk-chan refused, but after getting a hard blow, Suk-chan finally began to be interested in Kim's organization. After that, Do-yun and Woo-sol were shown practicing. Apparently, now they are very familiar like brothers. Han-min was also seen greeting Woo-sol. Shortly after that, Han-min was taken by Won-jun's group. Seeing this, Woo-sol immediately fought them. Long story short, Won-jun's men who were humiliated by Woo-sol complained to Won-jun. Knowing this, Won-jun was even more furious and told his men to bring Woo-sol. While Woo-sol is practicing, two of Won-jun's men come politely in front of Do-yun to borrow Woo-sol. Woo-sol, who already knows about it, asks Do-yun for permission to meet Won-jun. Arriving at Won-jun's place, he politely apologizes for what happened to his men. However, Won-jun still doesn't accept it and even undermines Woo-sol's self-esteem. Not accepting being treated like that, then the duel began. The fight was won by Woo-sol, although he also had to be battered. Then, Do-yun came and separated them. Seeing this, Seong-yong is increasingly interested in testing his fighting skill on Woo-sol. On the other hand, Suk-chan's involvement in the mafia organization is also getting worse. Now he feels like he has power, and eradicates all of his boss's competitors. Time after time passes, now Woo-sol continues to practice until he becomes stronger. Even in one moment, he almost could defeat Do-yun. Seeing Woo-sol's involved, Do-yun was very happy mixed with sadness, where it seems that today he will be transferred to an adult prison. A very hard thing for him to lose his student and friend, that is Woo-sol. With reluctantly, Do-yun said about this transfer. Hearing that made Woo-sol's hurt. How not, so far only Do-yun has accompanied all kinds of Woo-sol's complaints in prison. Therefore, Woo-sol was worried about Do-yun's departure. There is no more teacher and friend to practice or complain. After that, in the car, a driver is shown talking to his friend about the rumors of a boy who defeated Won-jun, the prison thug. The driver said that the boy was named Woo-sol. Suk-chan, who was behind him, heard it and immediately became shocked, unable to believe it. How is it possible that Woo-sol, who is actually a geeky, bookish kid, can fight and even beat prison thugs? The driver also assured him that the news was true. Hearing this, Suk-chan's desire is getting burned in anger. On the other hand, Jong-ta is shown with his boss, who is none other than Sang Hyop. It seems that Sang Hyop has returned from the exile room. Sang Hyop is actually a good person who just wants peace between gang leaders. Therefore, when he passed by with Won-jun, he had no grudge for being moved to the seclusion room, because he was framed by Won-jun and Seong-yong the other day. Sang Hyop simply says, how could Won-jun lose so badly to the new kid? And the news has spread to every corner of the prison. An embarrassed Won-jun simply replies that the new kid will be in the same cell as Sang Hyop. However, Sang Hyop doesn't care at all. Later, Seong-yong and his gang are shown cleaning up the yard. Meanwhile, an officer carries Woo-sol, who will be transferred. Knowing this, Seong-yong told his men to trick the officer, while he wanted to talk to Woo-sol. There, Seong-yong invites Woo-sol to fight. If Seong-yong wins, Woo-sol must obey all his orders. Woo-sol then replied, if I win you can't bully others, let alone extort their money and beat others for fun. Hearing that, Seong-yong just smiled. Woo-sol then emphasized that he wanted to fight right now. However, Seong-yong seemed to deny that and chose to fight the next day. But Woo-sol still insisted that he wanted to duel right now. And so, the unexpected happened. Woo-sol fell down with just one kick. After that, Sang Hyop was seen in the cell waiting for Wu Sol's arrival. Shortly after that, Wu Sol arrived in the cell. Not wanting his dignity to look bad in front of his men, Sang Hyop greeted Wu Sol with a fist fight gesture. However, it seemed that Wu Sol was not in the mood and not interested in fighting him. Knowing that, Sang Hyop inwardly felt very relieved. The next day, Xiangyang couldn't wait for Wu Sol's arrival, which was also attended by Jun. Sang Hyop was also present in case they even played a gang. But that afternoon, Wu Sol never came, which made Xiangyang speculate that Wu Sol's guts were scared. While on the other hand, it seems that Sukshan returned to see Wu Sol. There, Sukshan was surprised to see Wu Sol gallantly looking at and taking the phone without shaking because of fear. Seeing Wu Sol's change, Sukshan felt both envious and slapped. Sukshan then said, "Are you happy with the change into someone strong?" Wu Sol then replied, "No, I became strong not for pleasure. Why don't you take care of yourself to change for the better before I beat you up?" Hearing that, Sukshan's emotions overflowed. He seems to be cornered by Wu Sol's words, until Sukshan can't answer a single word, then leaves with an annoyed look on his face. On the other hand, Xiangyang, who had run out of patience, challenged Sang Hyop duel. Sang Hyop doesn't seem to mind. However, Jun also turned out one to join, in which Sang Hyop definitely was unable to fight two of them in same time. Luckily, after a long time for wait, Wu Sol finally came. Without further ado, Wu Sol immediately makes it clear that if he wins, then Xiangyang can't bully others' peoples anymore. Xiangyang replied, "Of course, even if you win," and so the duel ensues. Wu Sol loses at first, but he gets up and immediately beats Xiangyang. Wu Sol then managed to choke Xiangyang, but the guards came to separate them. The next day, Sang Hyop and Wu Sol meet Xiangyang and Jun. There, Wu Sol demands Xiangyang's promise and begs the four of them to reconcile and cooperate. Happily, Xiangyang finally keeps it. Apparently, Jun also had no choice but to follow Xiangyang. And in the end, the four from imprisonments reconciled. Not only that, over time they were always together, playing together and joking together without fighting each other again. All of this is, of course, because to Wu Sol's great influence on his hard work, to become strong, as well as his humility to oppress powerlessness. On the other hand, in the adult prison, Do-Yun was seen training someone. Seeing that the man was weak, Do-Yun then said, "You are not like my friend who willing to run until he faints, so stand up and amaze me." It seems that now, Do-Yun is mentoring the inmates who have always been oppressed, without their asking. Do-Yun became concerned about the weak, so that they would be determined to change. Not to forget, he also misses Wu Sol and worries about her. However, Do-Yun is optimistic that Wu Sol can take care of herself, not from her strength, but her kindness. On the other hand, the officer was seen carrying Wu Sol. Apparently, Wu Sol received leniency for good behavior. Before leaving the prison, he had asked the officer for permission to see his training ground, the place where Wu Sol found a glimmer of hope. Now, Wu Sol could finally feel the fresh air, the air that he should be able to feel without having to feel the confinement of prison. Not long after, he let go of the longing to feel the joy of being a free man. It seems that a problem still has to be solved. Not far from there, Sukshan was waiting for him in the car. Knowing this, Wu walked to a quiet place without caring about him. Sukshan also followed with his feelings of resentment. After they were reunited, Wu Sol again politely warned that Sukshan would get bad things if he still insisted on fighting, because Wu Sol gladly accepted if Sukshan wanted to change and reconcile. However, it seems that this Sukshan doesn't know himself. He still haughtily wanted to fight out of jealousy and resentment due to Wu Sol's transformation. So, in the end, the duel between them began. There, Wu Sol was beaten blindly. Apparently, he was still holding back, hoping Sukshan would change, even though it was clear that Sukshan had blind eyes and heart right now. However, Wu Sol's kindness is still open, which is even his weakness. Therefore, for now, if he doesn't want to be oppressed, that he must rise up and throw away his weakness in order to eradicate ignorant people like Sukshan. Luckily, Wu Sol finally could to win. Even though there was only one punch left, But Wusal was still Wusal, who did not want to prolong the problem and chose to go back home to meet his parents. After being free for a long time, Wusal decided to meet Do-Yun at the adult prison. Before anything, Do-Yun was already smiling happily, because Wusal could be free in good condition. Likewise, Wusal couldn't wait to see Do-Yun get out of prison soon. Wusal said, "Hurry up and come out, my teacher, no. I mean my best friend, no. I repeat, hurry up and come out, my brother." Hearing this, Do-Yun felt very touched. They then laughed together. With this moment, the movie ended.